I work for the St. Mary's County Sheriff's Office, and in a leadership role, what we're finding is that with all the events that are happening in the world right now, we as management and we as police leadership have to start to ask ourselves, what are people wanting in their police officers, and what should we as police managers be looking for in the police that we hire and the police that we currently have? Oddly enough, a strange chance coincidence and a chance meeting in Washington, D.C. recently helped to clarify a lot of those things for me personally. My mother had to have a heart procedure at Washington Hospital Center, and I drew the short straw and had to drive her to Washington, D.C. I picked her up. We had everything mapped out. We had everything planned. We had plenty of time. I had my GPS. We got up there, driving, no traffic because we left early. Mom says we have to leave at least 2 hours early to go anywhere. We're driving, we make good time, and as we get on the 395 exit, going into Washington, D.C., you go around the Washington Navy Yard and you go to the left and you bottom down a little bit, and there's a beautiful view of the United States Capitol off to your right. I distinctly remember that. Because right about then, we heard something. It sounded metallic, but to me it sounded like something had fallen off the roof of the car. I said, Mom, did you leave something on top of the car? And she says, no, I don't think so. So we drive on. Right about South Capitol Street, we start to get alarms. The car's brand new. It's about the third time I've ever even sat in this vehicle. And I start to hear a very distinct sound. And right as we're approaching First Ave and Capitol Street, I realize I'm riding on a rim. Now, I've got about 30 minutes to spare for this very important pre-operation meeting for her where they do all the diagnostic testing. And at that point, I have to make a command decision. The area that we're in is not the best of areas. There's no parking, and I've got to get this lady into the hospital for these important diagnostic tests. So I decide I'm going for it, and I rim it all the way to the Washington Hospital Center. I know that I've got to get her out of the car as fast as I can and get to a place where I can evaluate what the problem is. So we go around the emergency entry, and she's basically got a Burt Reynolds style it out of the car and into the hospital so that I can't be stuck in the ambulatory loop. So out she goes, staggering with her cane, yelling, I've got roadside assistance. I go around the circle. I find a place somewhere off Michigan Avenue, and I stop the car. I'm a little bit in the roadway, and I'm on a rim. People are waving me down. I've got Metrobus people waving me down saying, sparks flying. So I pull over. I don't know exactly where I am, but I'm definitely in a place that I'm not familiar with. This particular day was one of the hottest days that we've had this summer, and it's been unusually hot in this area. It was the kind of heat that when you looked out into the distance, it was one of those mirage vision bending days in Washington, D.C. If you're familiar with Washington, D.C., you know what I'm talking about. It was about 103 at that point. So I don't panic too much at this point, but there is a panic setting in, and I call the roadside assistance number. And the roadside assistance person tells me, unfortunately, Mr. Hall, this policy follows the driver, not the car. So even after I've explained that the driver is actually in the Washington Hospital Center, I'm out of luck. So option number 2. I get out of the car. Most new cars do not have spare tires. But after about 15 minutes of trying to figure out how to open the back hatch, I figure out that there is actually a tire, or almost a real one, with a metal hub on it. I pull it out. I'm in luck because I've changed quite a few tires in my time. So I pull the tire out. I get myself set. The jack is in good order. I get myself ready. Now I am tactically taking peeks around because I'm worried about getting hit by a car or potentially hit over the head. So I get down and I start to place the jack to raise the car, but the pavement is so hot. I can't get down on my hands and knees to even try to place the jack. Luckily, mothers are always prepared. She's got a blanket in the back. Lay the blanket out, start to crank it up. Panic is beginning to subside. Confidence is raising. Because now I'm concerned about mom, but she's where she needs to be. So I get the car up. I get good clearance. I get all of the little bolts and nuts off of it, and I give a pull. And I give another pull. I pull so hard I almost pulled the car off the jack. It's not budging. Now I'm thinking I've warped the thing on it. I've bent it onto the hub. It's not going to come off. I get up. I'm in a strange place. It's hotter than you know what. I can't get the tire off. And I am absolutely in despair. And right then, right behind me, I notice a little tiny woman has come right up on me. She's wearing glasses, a leopard skin, leopard print mask with purple strings. And as a good Marylander, I know my history. And the only thing that I can tell you about this woman in my mind's eye now is that she reminded me in stature and height of the mighty Harriet Tubman. About 5'2", 5'3". And she says in a velvety smooth voice, "Can I help you, honey?" My first concern is her safety and her being out in the heat. And I said, "Well, ma'am, not really." But her calm demeanor, I find myself telling her my story of woe about my mother. And she says, "My mother's in the hospital too. She's got stage 3 cancer." I said, "Look, I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I'm going on 51. I've been a cop for 26 years. I can't change this tire." "Well, let's take a look." She leans in, and now I'm a little worried that she's going to lean down and pull the tire off. I got to be honest with you. But she takes a look, and she says, "Well, that's a wheel lock, honey." And I said, "Wheel lock? My God, I got a 2005. I don't even know what a wheel lock is." She says, "You've got to find the key." Okay. Check in the glove box. That's where the key will be. Go in the glove box. My mom's got cat treats, a couple of prayer cards, some, handkerchiefs. There's no key, but I'm looking for a key. Let's check the tire changing kit. Nothing there either. I'm frustrated it's just, I'm so frustrated. I don't know what I'm going to do, because now I'm starting to think, how am I going to get my mother home? How are we going to deal with this? And she says, "Let's try one more thing. Look in the center console." Now, I had already been in the center console looking for a GPS charger for the phone. Way down in the bottom of that center console, there was a plastic holder with 4 lug nuts, and in the center, a big piece of metal. That's all it looked like to me. And she says, "That's your key, honey." Pull it out, put it on this smooth object. Tire came off, just like butter. I start to put my stuff away. I get the tire down, confidence up, panic is disappearing. And no sooner did I turn around to thank her, and she was gone. So as fast as she was there, she was gone. In the time since that incident happened, I've been able to think about what it meant. Because my mother said the whole time she was in there trying to get the diagnostic testing, she was praying for somebody to help me because of the good things that police officers do. Scientific people, maybe coincidence. People of faith, that's a whole nother TED Talk. But it solidified a lot of things for me. And that is, what is a police manager? What is police leadership? What do we need to look for in our police officers? So here it is. When we're recruiting, when we're rewarding, when we're promoting, we typically will pick things like shooting, driving skill, things like that. And at a police academy, those are the kind of awards that you'll see. Academic tests, PT, fitness, shooting, driving, things of that nature. You tend to look for somebody as a police manager that looks the part, but may not have the skills of the heart. So it really began to clarify what had happened. And I started to think, what are the attributes of a police officer that are most important and most utilized? Not saying that the other things aren't that I just mentioned, because they are very important. But initiative came to mind. Initiative. You have to be a person of action. You have to show up. You have to insert yourself in situations of chaos, despair, loneliness, unpredictability. You have to be emotionally intelligent enough to know how to enter, where to stand, the tone of your voice, the volume of your voice, and what message needs to be sent in that particular situation. You have to have the communication skills to know that when that message is delivered, how it's to be delivered, but most importantly, remember, the communication is verbal tennis, and you've got to listen as well as talk. Problem solving. You have to be able to go to an incident and allow the individual to partake in the problem-solving process. What is the issue? Identify it and then come up with reasonable ways to resolve the issue, perceived and real. And finally, selflessness. And selflessness basically is being a person of humility. It's about others. You're on the team of we, it's not about me. If you do that, you can't marginalize people. You can't devalue the people that you're around. And when you are selfless, the things that you're concerned about are others, and you have to be comfortable with the fact that after you've introduced yourself into the situation, communicated, and solved the problem, you have to be okay with leaving knowing that most of the time you're going to be faceless, nameless, and not be thanked. I'll never know who this woman was. I don't even know what she looked like because it was covered by a mask. I can't remember a name. I don't know anything about her. The only way I can truly thank her is to share what happened to me in a very brief, non-law enforcement encounter, and how that solidified these very important tenets that we as police managers have to think about and value so that it reaffirms the good work police officers do and helps to refortify the public's trust in us.